Hello, everyone. Welcome to Book and Bean Podcast. My name is Majesta Dawn. I'll be your host. I'm the author of the book Supernatural Supermom, being released on June 10th. And today we have the fabulous Brienne Loughlin with us here to talk about all things books. Brienne is the author of the book that we're going to be talking about today called Touchpoints, and it is set to be released on June 1st, if I'm right?
Yep.
Wonderful. So coming up shortly, how are you feeling with it, the release date approaching quickly?
Yeah, so it's good, but I'm a debut author, right? And so you're always learning about the tricks of the trade and there's so much opportunity now for being on TikTok or being on Facebook or being on Instagram, Bookstagram, Goodreads. And so, I'm in those places as a reader. It's really different to be there as an author.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. You and I are both kind of in the same boat. Debut authors, it's nerve-wracking, but and TikTok, just and full disclosure to anyone who's watching this book talk, is how we found each other to have this conversation today, which has been a great community. I feel like for new authors, we're kind of entering this new era where, previously things like self-publishing was called like vanity publishing, and it was kind of thought as like, oh, who does this? Now anybody has access to the internet and can publish their book and can get it read. And communities like TikTok help us do that. Or we could go the traditional route, publish that way, all those things, but we just have so many more options. But what I want to talk to you about today is tell me a little bit about Touchpoints. We're going to dive into something else that you've started up as well, which is extremely interesting, but we're going to save that for a little bit later. Let's talk about the book first.
Well, thank you. And I'm excited for your debut too. So let me just get that out there. You're a June 10th debut, right?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're both in this really exciting period of time. My book is a feminist, spicy romance. It would probably be classified as erotic romance because sex drives a good portion of the book. But not because it's erotica, because it's got a really confident female main character who is, sexually confident. She's confident in her work. She's confident in her relationships. She knows who she is, and she's trying to reawaken her sex life. She's in her 40s. She has been married. There's some tragedies in her life. She's moving on, and she goes up to a remote island in a way to like escape her career, escape these tragedies, and just like get some distractions. So there's some hot guys on the island, and it kind of takes off from there.
I love this. I love this one. I love that she's such a strong female character. And, I was reading your author bio, which we will make sure to link to everything, but it said that you started writing, strong female leads because so many of the romance books that are out there, which romance is becoming a more popular genre than ever. But so many of the female leads were the man was saving the day, right?
Yep.
And so you decided if there's not that strong female character I want to see, I'm going to write her, right?
Totally. Well, and there's, I was reading books, and I read books to escape, right? I love to read books. I love to read romance. I love spicy romance. And, you're getting into a story, and all of a sudden there's this submissiveness, there's this kidnapping, there's the, daddy figure, there's the, grew up with this brother's best friend, and now he's like dominating your thoughts. And then, half the time the female is like a 22-year-old virgin, and it's,
yes.
It's all about this sexual dominance for the men. And I'm like, women are writing these things and women are reading these things for their own enjoyment. Like, that's not what I enjoy. And so I started to say, hey, I want to like come up with my own tropes that are more empowering.
I love it. We need that. You're 100% right. I mean, it feels like I love reading romance books. I love erotica. Like, it is an escape. It's fun to read, right? That's probably most of what I read just for fun. But I'm even thinking about, and I'm not going to name it, but one of my favorite series, even though by the end of the series, which was a many, many book series, the character was the female lead was so sexually confident and so open to new things and was down to try anything. It definitely didn't start that way. She started as a virgin in book one, right? Yep. We saw her whole evolution, but it's still like, you're right. There needs to be something out there for those people they feel like they can relate to, right? Not everyone is that 22-year-old who's going to meet the billionaire who's going to
Yeah.
bend him over the table, right?
Yeah, and actually I just applied to speak at a couple of conferences, and the name of the presentation is, but does she have to be a virgin? You know, exploring the female main character from a feminist perspective. Like, you just don't have to have that fact. It's not required. She can have some sexual experience. It doesn't make her damaged. It doesn't make her less interesting as a character. Like, I think we all need to just question ourselves, but it's society. It's, what's expected of the romance novel and this innocence that becomes uncovered. Sure, it's interesting sometimes, but I find it really disempowering. And so I don't choose to write that way.
I agree 100%. And what's really romance books have been around forever. Harlequins, I remember stealing my mom's Harlequins when I was younger, sneaking, but what's even sadder to think about, really, it didn't become mainstream or wasn't really talked about until the infamous 50 Shades of Grey movement. Right. And that's when it blew up. And that also, I think, was one of the things that we saw the rise of more indie publishers and indie authors, things like that, because there was such demand for this type of romance novel where we're not afraid to talk about sex.
Yep.
And mainstream wasn't ready to produce it yet. So the indie authors were like, we will do that for you.
Yeah, she's got to be one of the most successful independent authors. And you can see why she went that route. You can see why I went that route, right? Like, it takes too much time and effort to convince traditional publishers that this is something that readers want when they're so used to following, books that follow a pattern that has been successful in the past. But times are changing, and times are changing very fast right now. And I know we'll get to that. I just think, like, I wrote the book I would want to read as a career person, as a person who, has advanced degrees and just has high expectations of myself and other women.
And that's amazing. And as we want to encourage other women, it's okay to have high expectations. You don't have to be submissive to be in a great relationship.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. So tell me a little bit about something else that you're involved in, the Feminist Spice Club.
Yeah. So I started this just a few months ago, towards the beginning of 2022. And it's actually, the Feminist Spice Club is sort of three things. Hopefully it's a movement. It's a way to say we want more feminist perspectives, strong, sexy, smart female main characters in our spicy romance. But it's also a community. So we've got a Facebook group of people who are readers who want to find more feminist novels, and writers who are interested in, finding their audience, but also like cross-checking their own work to see if there's anything that they've done by habit unconsciously in their book that could be changed to be more empowering. And so we actually have created, as a group, a list of prompts for authors, like, do the female friends only ever talk about guys and sex? Or is there some other storyline happening that shows them as complete, smart, strong people? Does the woman have some sexual experience, or at least is she equal in the bedroom? Like, if she's a virgin, that's fine, but he could be a virgin too. Like, there's no reason why the guy can't also be exploring his own sexuality at the same time.
Wait, you mean guys can be virgins too?
Know, right? So it's so cool for guys to be sexualized at a young age, and it's so uncool for women, and that's just so wrong. So let's make them a little bit more equal. Does it take away from the story? It probably doesn't really take away from the story.
I'd never thought about that, but I've never once read a book where the guy was the virgin in the story.
So that's actually the conversation on our Facebook group right now, is like, hey, show me some, romance novels written by men where the man is a virgin.
That would be amazing, right?
Yeah, and like, do you think it exists? Like, no, society hasn't really let it exist, is my guess. But some of the female authors in the group are writing from that narrative. And so they're saying, hey, let's explore men's, burgeoning sexuality. If we think it's so hot for women, then why can't it be hot for men?
Absolutely. It should be equal, and we're in a period of time right now, unfortunately, where things like, I think it's been argued a lot of times, if you look on mainstream media, even as we were talking about with publishers, how hard it can be to get these type of books published. Yep. But if it's a thriller or a mystery that's written by a man, They're going to be on all the daytime talk shows.
Yep.
Right. It's going to be right up there on New York Times bestsellers list. And there are some female authors who've managed to be successful. And we know the 50 Shades of Grey movement happened. But even when we proved that we wanted that women want those books, and romance novels are consistently always outselling all other genres all the time.
Yeah.
I should have wrote a romance novel. I wrote a paranormal cozy mystery, regretting my decision. But
Hey, there's always more to write.
yes, always more to write. But yeah, we still don't get that equal airtime, even though we know romance novels sell better. And we're finding ourselves even today, if you turn on the news, they're trying to overturn Roe v. Wade. You know, we're still fighting for our rights, yet alone to even be able to read what we want to read. So I think these conversations are important.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, the Roe v. Wade is all about women's rights. It's actually not just about women's rights. It is most harmful to women of color who are in states that are taking away their rights already. And then with Roe v. Wade, having some of these things refer back to the states just means that these women are going to be trapped. They're going to be, by themselves. Hopefully they live near a border of a state that's going to allow access to abortion. Unwanted pregnancies don't happen without a guy. So like, why don't we just have all men have, vasectomies that can be reversed when they're ready to have children? Like there's just such an unequal approach and so much judgment that happens from society. But at the end of the day, women cannot have liberty under the Constitution without having control over their own bodies.
I agree 100%. There's so many issues going on right now and I'm hoping that we are at the beginning of another revolution here when it comes to equal rights, for women, for people of color, for LGBTQ. Like I want to read those books. I want to read books with strong Black female main characters. I want to read books about my oldest, just found a series called, I want to say it's called Heartstopper.
Oh yeah. Oh, so my daughter spent the whole weekend trying to find that. Yeah, yes. It's out of all bookstores. It has sold out.
Yes, we had to do it on Kindle because she didn't want to wait until it would come back in, but it's about two high school boys who fall in love with each other. We're starting to see it. Like it never, when I was in high school, would that book have existed and been a Netflix show. That's right. So we're starting, but we're not where we need to be yet, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we're still a capitalist society. Like, hopefully people are gonna be like, hey, there's real money over here in this stuff. And let's start taking advantage of that and compensating female authors, romance authors, not myself, because I'm still on my debut, but they write so many more novels than most other authors. And they have to write so many more novels to start to get recognized. And so, I'd love to be able to recognize them for, the work that they do and not have to have it be 50 in a series or having written some incredible number of books. We need the better distribution, the better, airtime, as you say, on the TV shows and things like that to make that happen.
That's such a good point, because I don't know if you've seen the documentary I think it's on Hulu. It's called Naughty Books.
No.
I highly recommend checking it out. And it's a lot of the women who were featured are indie authors. And they were they did capitalize on that 50 Shades boom, right? But they were having to churn out a book every month and a half, 2 months to stay relevant. Can you imagine if James Patterson, a book every month and a half, 2 months? Like, come on.
He's pretty prolific. Like, I don't know how many books he puts out, but of all the authors, he is pretty prolific. But you look at some of the others that really aren't nearly as prolific, or have had, a lot of books, but over a 40-year or 50-year career.
Right. So
maybe he's had.
Yeah. It would be really nice if yes, more female authors get some of that airtime. I don't understand why it has to be so taboo. Right.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Hopefully,
And maybe it won't be. Like, maybe we start to create new norms. I know for the Feminist Spice Club, we're starting to invite authors to submit their book to us, and we will read it. And we've got a whole matrix that we go through and say, hey, is this actually a spicy romance that is a feminist romance? And then we'll help to market the book. We'll let them put a Feminist Spice Club read on the cover. They can use that in their marketing. Like, we want to help promote authors who are writing these types of empowering, spicy romance, and and help readers find them. So I think Book Talk's amazing, Spicy Book Talk's amazing. Like, there's all these channels now that are going to go outside of the normal publishing system, and so I'm really hopeful that this starts an important trend.
I agree 100%. I think you're right. Being able to support each other as communities, help each other get out there. And I'm hoping you'll be happy, you'll be fine with me to share your links to Feminist Spice Club Facebook, things
Please.
like that, so that authors who are looking for that support, they're writing those kind of books, that are looking to find their community, can find you all. To switch gears a little bit, because I know we've been talking about, tell me, when you said, I love this idea of feminist, strong character, that spicy book. When you sat down to write this as your debut novel, was it easy to write the spicy romance? Did it just flow? And then it was like the panic after, okay, now people are going to read this? Nervousness? Was there any embarrassment, any shyness that came through? Or was it like, nope, I'm writing it and I'm putting it out there?
Yeah, no, it was really who the character is. It's her age, it's her stage in life, it's her overall confidence. It's very natural for the characters. They totally exist outside my head. Like, I don't even feel like I made them up. They are, to me, real people. I've thought about, Charlotte is the main character. I've thought about opening up a Twitter for her, because she has a lot to say about what's happening in the world right now. And so it was just very normal. And I think, I keep talking about normalizing this stuff, but for this character, I just saw it and wrote it, and the storyline came together beautifully, but it almost wrote itself.
That's amazing. I love how you, like, sometimes it does, right? Our characters, they exist in our head. We just sit down and we write them. And with my book, it didn't have any sex scenes in it. But my book's characters were so closely related to my actual family, like my husband, myself, my 3 kids. They've just all names changed. That writing those, I mean, there's like, wink, wink, they're getting ready to close the bedroom door, the kids are asleep,
Right.
like, but that's where it stops.
Right.
But I'm like, to take it any further would feel like letting the public inside my bedroom.
Right.
So I've never attempted to write that, but I think that it would have to be a different character. It didn't feel natural to me with that character because of that situation.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. With the right character, with the right idea, it would be fun to explore that.
Yeah. And I was sort of surprised at how many sex scenes there are. Like, it just kept happening. And but she's also at this point in her life where, like, she's already been successful. She's had these tragedies. She's sort of gone off to, Bali for the retreat in silence. She's gone to Montana to go hiking. Like, nothing is getting her out of this funk, this disinterest. She can't focus. She's used to being a really high powered, person in tech, CEO. And so she just needs something else. And she's like, all right, well, maybe orgasms will help. And now she's like, all right, let's go find some of those, right? So, and it's true,
to orgasm,
right? Yeah, come on, here's our beans. So it just came kind of naturally, and I had to do a lot of research on women's sexual health, so that was interesting. And it's certainly not the same as what's happening in my bedroom. But the point is that women's orgasms actually give them the dopamine, right? It makes you feel different. It makes your adrenaline, it changes the way that your adrenaline flows through your body. And so if all these things are happening physiologically, it kind of makes sense that would help somebody to recover from grief or depression or distraction.
Absolutely. And it's so nice to see that celebrated for women. I mean, it's in every college movie you see that the guy goes out there. It's the guy's not the slut, right? It's celebrated. If a guy's uptight, it's not, or stressed, it's not uncommon to hear someone say, you need to go get laid.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah. And so in this book, like, Charlotte's like, hey, maybe I'll get laid tonight. Yeah. Right. So it's that same language, and very purposefully, a lot of those same kind of stereotypes that we have for guys where sex is cool and expected, I flip for her. But then there's also this guy in the book who has been a player, like he's been all those stereotypes, and how this very strong, smart, very rich woman comes into his life and how he accommodates that and adjusts to that and figures out this is who he wants and changes his life around her. Usually you've got the virgin going and changing her life because of the billionaire. Like in this time it's flipped, although he wasn't a virgin, because they're both equal, somewhat equal sexually. And so that's also the other thing. It's like, who are the guys in our lives who can handle these smart, strong, sexy, wealthy women?
Yes, because it's not, and I don't think that, I think it's the outside societal pressures that are put on guys. I don't think that guys are born saying, oh my goodness, I don't want to be with someone who makes more money than I do in their career or is more successful. But society tells them you're supposed to be the breadwinner. And then there's a lot of guys that can't handle that. So it's amazing to hear that this character, if he wants to be with her, he's got to make some of those changes too.
And he does, and you see him do it throughout the book. And it's not a happily ever after. It's a what do they call it? Happily for now. Nice. So there will be a second book at some point, but we have to explore, like they're in this island in Canada and she's gone there for her escape. She meets him, but she's got to go back to Silicon Valley. Like that's where she's from. That's where her work is. That's what she's good at. She's very much into her career and that success. And so he wants to go with her and she's like, I don't know if you can make it there. Like it's a crazy place. Right. And so that's how the book sort of evolves. If they were just to stay there and if she were to give up her career, it could have ended. But of course she wouldn't do that, because who does that?
Yes, exactly. And that's what's so great to hear about this, is because in real life, if you're a CEO of a company as a woman and you worked probably 10 times harder to get there, first of all, right? You're not going to throw all that away, no matter how much you love somebody. You can't. It's not the real world. So it's nice to hear those stories that mirror actual real life. And much like the women saying, I'm really stressed, maybe I need to go get laid. That's real life too, even though we don't talk about it.
Right.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Brienne, I would love for you, give us just a quick recap, and I will post all the links on the YouTube, on the podcast, and also on the Book and Bean podcast Facebook page as well. But can you give everybody a heads up on where the best places to find you, follow you, and to check out Touchpoints are going to be?
Yeah, so Touchpoints is available for pre-order as an ebook. It'll be also a paperback, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a hardcover too, but I'm still pulling all that stuff together. Little author secrets there. I'm on Goodreads, Brienne Loughlin Author. I'm on TikTok, Brienne Loughlin Author. Facebook, the Feminist Spice Club. You can find our Facebook group. And there's some information on my website too. So I've got a gazillion links between the book, me, and the Feminist Spice Club. So hopefully people will find me in one of those places, especially if you want to be reading more feminist novels and if you're an author who wants to get recognized for writing them.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Brienne, for having coffee with me, for chatting books today. And I can't wait to read Touchpoints.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation, and I can't wait for your book too.
Thank you.